Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Security Awareness Forum brought to you by Doyen Institute of Intelligence and Investigations. I'm your host, George Dosu Doyen, and today we are diving into one of the most pressing cybersecurity threat issues affecting the continent of Africa: online blackmail and sextortion. Now, why is this topic so significant? Across the continent, we are witnessing an alarming rise cases of individuals, both young and old, being targeted by cyber criminals through these tactics. People are losing their peace of mind, their reputation, and even their life savings simply because of these menace. These crimes not only affect personal lives, but also erode trust in online space, making it harder for communities to fully embrace the digital world with confidence. In this discussion, I will break down what online blackmail and sextortion really are, how they operate, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself and your loved ones. Join me today are top security professionals with deep insight into these issues, and they will share their practical advice, real life scenarios, and what needs to be done from law enforcement perspective and societal perspective to tackle these growing menace. And so let me quickly bring my guests to the studio. And so I would, Mr. Welcome to the studio with me, Mr. Gomer Chirambo from Zambia, Mr. Monaja Anthony from South Sudan, and Mr. Ahanta Apiminubia, the third from Ghana. I think your names are quite heavy, and so during your time, you can kindly reintroduce yourself to our audience, and then we'll take it from there. Today's topic, like I have discussed, is on cyber security threat in Africa. We are focusing on online sextortion and blackmailing. And if I may take these quickly, uh, this year we have the Cyber Security Authority in Ghana issuing a communique or a warning to the public. And the Cyber Security Authority, and I read, online blackmail extortion cases on the rise. Following the March 2024 alert, in which the Cybersecurity Authority noted a 254% year-on-year increase on online blackmail cases for the first 2 months of the year, an additional 141 reports were filed between March and June this year. 226 cases were recorded so far in the year of 2024 and have resulted in a loss of 112,000 and over. Modus operandi: these actors initiate friendship on social media platforms, typically via Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, and later move the conversation to WhatsApp. With time, the malicious actors move the friendship to intimate relationship, luring target individuals into having nude video calls and WhatsApp, that are secretly recorded. These actors may initiate unsolicited video calls, capture the target's face, and then use it for fake explicit content and exchange of explicit photos, usually not for themselves, and it goes on and on. Now, this was a report or a communication issued by the Cybersecurity Authority. Unfortunately, we do not have any member of the Cybersecurity Authority to join us to do this discussion, even though we send them an official invitation to join the session. Now, cybersecurity threats, especially online blackmail, has been on the rise for some time now, and I can speak from my office, the Office of Investigation at Doyen Institute of Intelligence and Investigations. Over the years, we've helped people uh, who have faced some of these challenges across the country. Yes, of course, they report the issue to the police, but most often identifying the individuals involved becomes a problem. And that is where they fall on our investigation department to do contact tracing and help identify the individuals that are behind the online sextortion and blackmailing. Now, the approach is quite different depending on the individual or the country you find yourself in. In Ghana, I can speak and say that the issue of online blackmailing and sextortion has been on the rise for almost 5 years now. And of course, internet is readily available. In fact, let me share this one quickly. There was a case in which an arrest was made somewhere in Qatar. It was a top high level executive member of a certain financial institution that was being blackmailed at that time. Yes, just like the cybersecurity authority mentioned, that the conversation started from Facebook, then it moved to WhatsApp, where there were conversation between the cyber criminal and the victim. They actually had conversation and video calls where there were some explicit content in there. Of course, the cyber criminal appear to be using a very beautiful picture of a lady, and sometimes even during phone conversation with the client or the victim at that time, the voice is actually a female voice, and they have very good conversation. Only for the client, the victim, to be there one day and receive a message that he needs to pay a certain amount of money or his nudes, which the cyber criminals have, is going to be released to the public domain. The victim at that time was afraid and decided to report the issue to the police station. The police took it up. It was difficult initially, but our help was needed, and we stepped in, and this person was arrested. It's interesting to find out one thing. When the police, together with our team, made the arrest, this is what happened. The cyber criminals were 18 years and 22-year-old, and then they had a phone. I don't want to mention the brand of the phone, but a very low grade mobile phone. And that is what they use in doing whatever they were doing. It will surprise you that now they do have applications over the internet space they download on these devices. And sometimes, even though it is they you are talking to, the images you may see on your video calls, WhatsApp video call, may turn out to be the exact picture or even the video of the image of the person they may be using on social media. Uh, there are a lot of software out there that these cyber criminals use, to the extent that they can change their voices from male to female, change their looks from male to female. And with the introduction of artificial intelligence and the AI applications, everything is possible within our domain. In the studio with me today to discuss these issues are our distinguished guest. And then, so I'll start with Mr. Monajo. Can you kindly tell us the issue of cybersecurity threat, online sextortion, and blackmail? How is the situation like in South Sudan, in Juba, South Sudan?
Thanks so much, George, for having me
Mr.
in this show
Monajo,
today.
okay, so I think Mr. Monajo may be facing some technical challenges. And so I'll go to a law enforcement officer who have dealt with these cases in the past, having or serving with the Ghana Police Service. He has in-depth knowledge and have faced similar cases in the past. And so I would want to bring in Mr. Ahanta. Uh, Kindly share your perspective with these issues with us.
So good evening, George, and thanks for having me on your program. Yes, this topic is quite sensitive, and for someone who has dealt with these cases on several occasions, it's quite sensitive and emotional as well. If you look at the kind of experiences that the victims go through. Well, in Ghana, like you mentioned earlier, the report by the Cyber Security Authority, it's really on the rise, and it's a case that is becoming how do I even describe it? It's a phenomenon that is getting on and on and on, and just like the statistics was shown by the Cyber Security Authority. Can you imagine that as at in the year 2024, we have about 254% increase? And it should tell you how alarming the situation is in Ghana. And we must all be worried about it. But some of us who have been in investigation field, and as somebody who has handled it, um, they come into two forms. There are those who do the professional sextortion, like you mentioned in the case of Keta, for instance. They do sextortion for living. They do blackmail for living. It's a professional trade that they have taken upon themselves. And then the one that comes to us most often time is the love affair, the love gone wrong situation, whereby sometimes people are in relationship and also they broke up and they have nude photos and they want to use it. Either one is not happy for the other one leaving. Mostly the ladies. If you leave, I'll put this out in the social media space, and this and more cases keeps coming. So it's really on the rise, and it's also my experience. Almost everybody can fall a victim. I have several cases that some politicians have to come to me, and it's really worrying. I've had cases of nurses, I've had cases of lawyers, I had cases of, I mean, almost everybody, pastors, yes, pastors, and almost everybody across the society can be a victim. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahantan, for that particular one. May I move to get the perspective from Zambia? How is the situation like in Zambia, Lusaka? Mr. Gomez.
Thank you so much, George, and thank you for the opportunity to appear on this profound program. We are not in isolation. I think, as my colleague has shared from the Ghanaian perspective, with the increase in use of mobile devices now, social media platforms that are on the increase, and you see a lot of Zambians getting to use a lot of these platforms. This has created an opportunity for cyber criminals to hit on these unsuspecting victims. Blackmail, to an extent, I think sextortion is more common. And these are normally, from my personal experience, a few cases that I've taken part in investigating. It's people looking for love out there innocently and opportunities to probably go out. So it starts on a dating site. And before the unsuspecting victim knows what's going on, trust has been built, nude photos have been sent and shared, and the next thing, there's a demand. So it is a growing trend, and the government has made quite a number of interventions, I must say, like many other African countries, by enhancing legislation and enforcement. We've had in the past 10 years seen a second revision to the cyber crime bills. We had the first one in 2004. This basically was a Computer Misuse Crime Act, number 13. It, of course, had a lot of lacunas, left a lot of things, but as the dynamics have been changing, we now are standing at the 2024 Cyber Security Act. This then embraces quite a lot of these things, and sextortion is one of those that is actually included. So you can see that because of the rise, and the government itself has been making efforts to ensure that more efforts and interventions are put in place.
Thank you very much for giving us from the Zambian perspective. Can we have Mr. Monaja? Mr. Monaja, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, so I have Mr. Anthony with me from Juba, South Sudan. Please, can you share with us from the South Sudan perspective?
Thanks so much, George, for having me in this program this evening. I think South Sudan, being one of the youngest nations in the world, is not an exception to blackmail and sextortion, considering the fact that it gained independence in 2011. To make matters worse, when South Sudan gained independence, like everyone from around the world saw it as an opportunity to, like it's a jackpot. So many opportunities that have not been explored before. So many people were coming in, others coming in with good intentions, others with concealed intentions. And for that matter, blackmail and sextortion is not an exception. A few years ago, I think not 2 or 3, there was a case where a certain hotel, which I cannot mention, I think it was frequented by one of the politicians. And then one day, I think the hotel staff laid out a plan to install a secret camera in the room where this politician usually comes with young girls. And then after some time, they got the contact of this politician and told him, you know what, we have your videos of an affair with so many girls, and if you don't give us this amount of money, we will expose it. And it created a panic that this politician had to part way with a lot of money in that case. So in South Sudan, the matter has been made worse because of the literacy rate. Approximately 70% of adults in South Sudan cannot read or write. So it means it's only under 70, like around 30% that can read or write. And you may understand that digital literacy goes hand in hand in the eradication of cybercrime threats like blackmail and sextortion. And this has really been a big problem in our country. Secondly, there is also no legal framework that can guide or even punish offenders in case something happens. Currently, the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse Bill 2024 is still in Parliament. It has not been debated, and we believe before the end of the year, maybe it can become a law such that serious measures can be put in place. However, the country currently uses a standing order or a provisional cyber crimes and computer misuse order that was issued by the president in May 2021. But it does not carry the legal weight like an act that can really punish offenders of cyber crimes or blackmail or sextortion for that matter.
Thank you very much for the insightful overview of the situation in South Sudan, Juba, as well. And you touch on a very important, significant topic, which then will take us to my next question, which I am posing to Mr. Ahanta. And that is planting of hidden cameras in hotel rooms where these hotels will take or will be able to capture the nude of whoever comes in there and later use it to blackmail those people. Now, in the case of the techniques used by these criminals, Mr. Ahanta, in your case, being a law enforcement officer, can you share with us some of the techniques used by these cyber criminals to lure victims into blackmailing and sextortion?
There are several techniques. There are several techniques, and it comes in various forms. And the first one of it is the social media space, and the person comes in a very, very innocent forms, and the person goes like, okay, you know, these days the social media space is the biggest platform now. You can cut across from what do you call it, TikTok to Facebook to whatever it is. So they come online very unassuming, very unassuming. They like your post. Anything you put on Facebook, they comment on it, they share. They have interest in you. They keep on edging you. You might think that they are real guys. No, they are not. They are not real guys. Behind the scenes are evil console people who want to do harm to you by getting your nude photos. So from the grooming, what we call the grooming stage, now they begin to go to the emotional manipulation. Now they begin to let you know how they like you, how they would want you, but because of the distance between them, the space between them, they cannot have a physical relationship with you. So the relationship should be online. And so it starts by normal video calls. Some of them try to show you nice places in their country, for all you know, they have not traveled anywhere. They may be here in Ghana. They are here, right here in Ghana. but they are showing you countries, pictures of countries from other places. And then the next thing they want to do is they want to see your face, face to face. They want to see your body, and then they go on and on and on. And then the next thing they do is they want to have what usually they call online sex, online, whatever that they call it. And then before you realize, you have your news photos with them. So there are several techniques. I mean, a lot of them that works with these online criminals and how they go about it. Several of them. Intimate relationships, secret recordings. You try to have unauthorized access to your phone and all. I mean, even the cameras that they turn on. I mean, some of them have recordings here and there. They are recording from their side, and a lot of it. Yes.
Thank you very much. Our brother from Zambia, can you perhaps share with us some of the techniques that these cyber criminals do use in luring their victims, if there are any?
Thank you so much, George. Indeed, there are quite a number, but amongst the many, one of the most common, without sounding very technical, we'll try and break it down to a very common description, is phishing. This is basically just where individuals are tricked, or the unsuspecting victims are tricked into revealing sensitive information. Of course, one of the main areas is social media. Somebody purporting to be who they are not, creating a relationship and building trust, and therein, and before people know it, they're giving out critical information like passwords, credit card numbers, and other sensitive information about them. Social media engineering is one aspect also we've seen, because these guys are not only targeting individuals per se. I've witnessed cases where multinational corporations and some of the well-established corporations within our country, some of which cases have been involved in, they're using social engineering. So what then they do is that most of these institutions that are lucrative have quite high levels of security. So they pick on a weak member of staff who is quite well placed within the institution, and they offer incentives to such individuals in form of money or many other things that these individuals may want to look out for. Financial assistance in exchange for critical information, such as access information to these systems. And once they have gained access to these systems, in most cases, they've ended up manipulating heads of those institutions by getting very private information about them. And there have been cases, by the way, George, where we've had high-profile individuals who have aides, so personal assistants. So these are people they trust with their gadgets and everything. So using social engineering techniques, again, these individuals have managed through their aides to get to some of these private gadgets that they have. And unfortunately, some of them have a lot more than private details on there, such as photos. We've seen videos. And at the center of one, they did extort actually money from a high-level individual who, of course, for fear of shame and ridicule, decided to pay these individuals. Unfortunately, they did not stop. It was just like the beginning of a cycle. So they went in for the next round of demands. And this is when this was reported to law enforcement. And with the intervention of private and state security, an intervention was made. Fortunately, an arrest was actually made of one of these individuals.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you touch on a very important issue, which is through the intervention of both the state security and that of the private security, the suspect was arrested. We'll come to that topic where we have the private security complementing the efforts of the state law enforcement agency. But before I go into that segment, let me draw the attention of our viewers that if you have any questions, you can leave them under the comment section of the broadcast, either on YouTube or on Facebook on our page. And then I'll read it out and then have my guests to answer them. Let me also share a personal experience. I think that for the virtue of what I do. We've had a lot of cases where people who have been in these who are victim of these specific topic we're discussing have had to confess to me some of how these cyber criminals approach them. And I agree with Mr. Hunter that most often the first approach is from social media. Okay, because everyone in today's world is on social media. Either you're on Snapchat, or you're on TikTok, or you are on X, or you are somewhere on Facebook, or even elsewhere. And so it's very important that we are mindful of the people that we accept as friends or even respond to on social media. There are some that could come with you with very nice, beautiful, handsome images, but behind these images could be cyber criminals trying to lure you to be one of their future victims. But as part of these discussions, I often do have with people that are victims. One of them told me, and is a lady, she said, what forced her into accepting the online dating? Mr. Gomez mentioned that that is the approach, the online dating and those dating side, and to accept going out with this person, even though she hasn't met the person before, and the whole conversation meeting happened on Facebook. According to her, it was as a result of the fact that she does not have anybody in her life, because most often she goes to work, she comes home, and family is pressuring her, I mean, to get a boyfriend, to get married. And so when these person approach her on Facebook, straight away, she just said yes, and they started talking, vibing, video calls. They started having nude video calls. That's where the cyber criminals recorded it and later was using it to blackmail them. Now, my question to all of you is that do cultural and societal pressures play a role in making victims more vulnerable to sextortion? Mr. Gomez.
Thank you,
I
George.
think Mr.
Indeed.
Gomez may be having issue with his internet. Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, George. Yes, we are in a society, and society will continue to be society, and pressure will come from whatever. I mean, wherever. And so, if you look at even some of the factors that is contributing to the rise of sextortion and online blackmail in Africa is even isolation. Isolation, just as you mentioned, isolation is one of them. People don't have people to talk to. People don't, they are not, I mean, you see a lot of them on social media. They really want relationship. And where we are getting to, our world has moved to the virtual space. And we live our world much more in virtual space, more than even a physical world. And so it's also a place, we also have situations and cases whereby people meet their lovers on social media. Several of them, people meet. The first time they met on Facebook. From Facebook, they started talking, and then they moved on to physical space, and they got married. And so people also think that, well, then we can get that opportunity there. So when people begin to come under pressure from friends, relatives, and families and work colleagues, they also try to look at other possible avenues. And one of the places that they can also find love is social media. But then, unfortunately, there's danger there as well. You don't know who you are talking to, and that person might not have that right intention to look for love as you are looking. And so, society, yes, contributes. It contributes partly, but then the question is, then the word is, we all need to be cautious on the on the virtual space, because, like I said, there are genuine people there as well as fake people. And so you don't know who you are talking to. But then, as soon as the exchange begins to come, you just have to be very careful on the virtual space. Yes.
Thank you very much. As soon as the demands for nude videos and nude pictures start coming on in, you have to be cautious and know where you are heading to. Those are the words of Mr. Ahanta. Mr. Monaja, if I may ask, in what way can people who use the social media space, of course, like Mr. Hunter mentioned, there are genuine ones who are there to find love, to connect, and to network with the other people. But again, there are also cyber criminals there willing and ready to pounce on anybody who wants to make himself or herself vulnerable. What are some of the ways do you think that these people who are on social media trying to network and to connect can protect themselves from falling victim to some of these cyber criminals?
Thank you very much. I think these cyber crimes are really a growing trend in, I think, the whole world. And for the safety of our accounts, of course, like you mentioned before, these people do not come from the blue. They have to come through a social media account or even through an email account. And one of the things that I really suggest is that people should use very strong and unique passwords to protect their accounts. There are instances where a person use the same password in almost every account that he or she has. Like myself, I will be using Monoja Anthony 1234 for my Facebook. The same password applies to my Gmail, the same for X and other social media platforms. This is where these criminals take advantage because they will keep on trying. They know I'm using this password for my Facebook account. I might be using it, the same password also on some of the accounts. So people should really try to have strong and unique passwords to the different accounts that they have. They should also avoid situations where strangers just pop in, a person you do not know, and you just connect with that person. Of course, there are even people who might know you, yes, but you never know. Their accounts might have been hacked. So you should really take time and investigate. Is this person really the one I know? Is he the person that I meant? Because the picture might be of a person you know, but you never know what had happened behind the scene. Like these days, I've been written messages on Messenger. Hello, so and so. So and so. Currently, I'm stuck in Nairobi. Can you send me $500 so that I'll refund once I get to Juba in like 2 days' time? But when you call this person's number and he'll say, actually, he's not in Nairobi, he's within Juba, but his account has been hacked. So to unsuspecting person, he will think, oh, this is my friend, I should really help him out. He's in a seat. He's in Nairobi and there's no way out. I should really send this $500. You never know, this money is now going to the wrong hands, you see. So people should really know and do due diligence before sending money to people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Monaja, on that. Mr. Gomez, what's your take on that topic? Any technique that's I mean, if I don't want to fall a victim to cyber criminals, especially on sextortion and online blackmail, what are some of the steps I can take to mitigate those vulnerabilities?
Thank you so much, George. Maybe I could also just briefly touch on the cultural and societal pressures that you earlier raised.
Yes, please do.
And that my colleague Hunter did. Yeah, it's particularly in Africa. It's this is a real issue, and mostly ladies fall victim to this one, where you're getting older, and we are getting impatient. When are we going to have a son-in-law, and so on and so forth? And you
Okay, so I
have a
think
case like
our colleague from Mr. Gomez from Zambia may be experiencing network challenge, and so let me use the opportunity to uh, share some other information with you. So one of the ways I can see questions coming through, and in a short while I'll read that out to our guests for them to answer that for you shortly. You can as well let us know where you are getting or viewing, watching us from. I see Alhassan Zakaria Hamza say he's watching live from Saudi Arabia. He's really happy. We have a question from Mr. Michael. And of course, in due time, I am going to share those questions with our guests and they will make sure it is answered. Very intuitive. This is coming from Yasin. Then again, we have Mr. Basiru Ibrahim. I'm watching live from Doma in the Bono Arafu region of Ghana. Possible. I'm so much proud to know more about these awareness. Okay, so quickly coming back to the studio, and now I think we do have Mr. Gomez. Mr. Gomez, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you able to get me, George?
Okay. Yes, so you can kindly go ahead now.
Okay, great. So I was trying to touch quickly on the societal and cultural pressures. And
Yes.
in most cases, it's our women folk that fall victim to this one because of a cultural expectation, age factors, and everything. So you find that that pressure of it's taking too long, it causes desperation. And with the online and social media platforms, in trying to find a suitable partner as quickly as possible, they end up falling prey and victim. And the sad part, and one or two cases that I've had an exposure to, is when they fell victim actually to sextortion. They failed to report because again, societal issues, and particularly African culture, they feared to be ridiculed or judged. As in, how could you go online? How could you? Why didn't you just go to an actual individual? So you find that even the victims themselves tend to have that problem. Coming to issues of how can one then protect their personal information? I guess that was the next question that you touched on, George.
Yes. Yes.
So I think one, there's need for us to become very cognizant that not everybody that we meet on these social platforms mean well. One, secondly, the individuals they purport to be. So it's very
Well, I
possible with
think
AI now.
Mr. Hello, Mr. Gomez, can you hear me? I think Mr. Gomez is okay. So I think we
George,
would. Okay, so I think Mr. Gomez is still having facing some network challenges, and so quickly let me use the opportunity to share these with you. Uh, Somebody is asking, what are some of the methods through which cyber criminals can have access to your nude pictures or your nude videos? Aside what the cybersecurity authority stated, which means that most of these operations start from the social media space where we have cyber criminals connecting with you on social media and later on having video calls with you and then you sharing your nudes because they move the relationship from being just friendship mutual to intimate, and so you share your videos with them. Aside that particular approach, the other means through which these cyber criminals can also have access to your nude pictures, your nude videos, is one, when you personally have the nude pictures and nude videos on your phone, and for example, you mistakenly gave your phone to someone else who may be interested in looking for those images on your phone that he or she can use in the past to in the future to blackmail you. For example, there have been cases where we have a prominent politician while with a side chick, I use that word carefully, with a side chick, the lady went through the phone, saw naked pictures of the man and a video. She quickly WhatsApp those details, those images to her phone and deleted it quickly from the man's WhatsApp number. And subsequently, later on, when the relationship was in shambles, she then used those images to blackmail these persons. So let's be mindful and careful on keeping such images on our own phones. The third approach can also be where you have these videos and pictures on your phone. And then let's look at a situation where your phone is not protected, it's not password secure, and your phone screen is damaged. And you have to send your phone to any of these popular repair shop. Of course, even if it's locked, you may be required to leave your PIN with them. Once they are done, not everyone is a professional at what they do. The person may go through these images in there, and when you find any of those things, is likely to pull it up and then use it tomorrow to blackmail you. You must understand that there are people who sell some of these information when they receive it to other people who are cyber criminals in a position to blackmail you. The other third approach, other third technique through which these people can get these nude pictures is through the use of hidden cameras. Uh, Everyone is looking for something to tie their partner or whoever they are in a relationship with down. And how best to do it than to hide secret recordings or secret cameras in key places in their homes or wherever they have an affair. And in so doing, they are recording the affair and your own image and that of the person. And at the end of the day, they have it stored somewhere where they can use it to blackmail you in the future should anything happen. So these are some of the other means through which cyber criminals can have access to your nude images. If I may come back to the studio, and I think some of our guests are having some technical challenges. So I am, Mr. Monaja, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you, George. I am with you. I'm with you,
Okay, so
George.
I think Mr. Monaja is also facing some level of technical challenges. Mr. Gomez,
Are you getting
kindly
me, George?
confirm if you are also with me.
George, I can hear you loud and clear. Are you able to
I
get
think
me?
Mr. Gomez is also facing some level of technical challenges, but the show will still continue. And then let me now
Hi,
quickly go to the
George.
comment section. Yes. Mr. Gomez, can you hear
I
me now?
I can clearly hear you. Are you able to get me?
Yes, you are loud and clear at my end. So now you have the
Okay, great.
opportunity. Kindly, you are going over the social aspect, the
Oh,
societal
great.
aspect. Please continue from there.
So I was saying, I think we have to be alive to the fact that at times culture and society,
Mr. Gomez?
and yeah, yes, George, can you hear me?
Okay, so I think Mr. Gomez is also having some technical challenges. And so I'll take the opportunity to go over your comment, your questions as well. I'm happy to join. This is coming from Mr. Richard Kofi. So I think first here from Amma, and then we have very educative from Mami Ikuya Adipa. There's a question coming through from YouTube, and this is coming from Mr. Michael Soriba Kamara. I believe he is in Sierra
Is
Leone.
gadget is
And
as a problem, huh?
yes, Mr. Gomez, I will be with you shortly. There's a question from one Michael Soriba Kamara, who is joining us from Sierra Leone. Is that one of the tools often used in blackmailing and sextortion is generative AI to develop deep fake videos and audios? Can our guests share their experiences on how you can detect a fake, a deep fake? I think that let me see if I can share something on this. So if you can see my screen now, this is software to fake video calls with Target. Like I mentioned from the beginning of the program, to answer your question, Mr. Michael, yes, I agree strongly with you that there are generative AIs in today's world that are being used to lure victims. And most often, these apps are readily available within the internet space. These apps are developed by some individuals that are actually not on the continent of Africa, but they are readily available where you can purchase with at as low as $5. What happens is that any image you select to have a video call with me, okay, so you think you are talking to the person that you have as a friend on social media, and you think is this handsome or beautiful guy with six packs, and when you are having a phone call, a WhatsApp call with the person, we have these fake video applications that if connected to just by the clicking of the image, the person would talk like that image. The person's face you see would just be like once, just like how you are seeing my lips moving up and down. You're going to see the same thing. How do you or are you able to detect some of these things? It's very difficult to detect these things in this modern world because AI is new. And so we need to give it a bit of time to be able to have countermeasures to it. But as it stands now, when it comes to video calls, you cannot believe everything you've seen in there. But the only way you will be able to detect from a human perspective is most often, and this is what I tell my client, if you want to be able to tell if the person you are talking to is real and is genuine, you can ask the person to go back a bit Avoid having a portrait type of conversation on those WhatsApp call or on those Facebook video calls. Ask the person to go back a bit. Once the person goes back, most often the AI disrupt. And so you'll be able to tell if the person is using a deep fake video app or the person is using it, the person is actually real. This is one of the ways that I can propose that our listeners may be able to employ whenever they're having those conversations with their supposed partners. There's another question coming from, okay, so I think my guests are in now. Mr. Gomez, can you hear me, please?
George, I hear you clearly. Are you able to get me?
Okay, you are very clear now. You can please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess you've tackled it well on generative AI. It's a very new technology, and one thing I can say is that even as Africa, we are equal to the task. As in, we have quite a lot of research going on right now. As you've well put it, George, AI is very recent and current, and therefore anything that's new on the scene requires a bit more research in terms of as you have developments, in this case, those challenges. So I like to believe that very soon, even Africa will come up to speed in determining some of these challenges. However, I think the beauty is that one, we need to just begin to use our instincts as well. Let us not be over sharing information with people we get to meet online. I think that's one first rule that will be very protective and that would help a lot of potential victims that may suffer sextortion and just generally blackmail. Let's avoid overly sharing information online and on a lot of social media platforms where we have no control in securing. Let us avoid sharing explicit content. I think, George, it's important to underline because I think the stigma that comes with most victims that fall prey to sextortion, you hear commentary such as, how could one do such a thing like that? I must state that a lot of us are actually potential victims. In the innocent sharing of nudes, I must tell you, we had one interesting case, George, where an individual was being followed up for suspected filming a team or a party that was in a club. So this group rushed to the police station across the club, reported that this guy was filming them. Police moved in quickly and wanted to verify that claim or that report. Guess, lo and behold, there was this whole content, an array of explicit videos. And you're able to tell from a gadget whether those were captured by the actual gadget or these were just streamed from online. These indicated very clearly they were captured by that gadget. And this is how a syndicate of a blackmailer was unveiled. And this gentleman, it turned now from a suspected guy that was trying to capture video footage of unsuspecting club goers into being convicted as a criminal of sextortion because of the overwhelming evidence. So let's also be very careful with what we keep on our phones. Another interesting case, George, was a stolen phone. It ended up in wrong hands, and such information as explicit videos were retrieved. And fortunately, again, it was a case of such unexpected intervention. So let's just be very careful with what we share to people that we don't know, even those that we know, is what I would say, George.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ahanta, thanks for joining us again after those few challenges. But there's a question here from Mr. Michael again, and he wants to know, what must he do if he falls a victim to online blackmail and sextortion?
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's fine. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I just went off. I was struggling to come back, but I'm happy I'm back. Yeah. So the first thing to do is for you to report to law enforcement agencies. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. Report to them, and I have personally handled a lot of those situations. Yes. So the first thing you should do, if you're asking me what you should do, that's the first thing. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Michael, there you have it. The first thing you should do when you fall a victim is to report to the law enforcement agency. They will know exactly what to do to identify the people involved and have them apprehended. Uh, Mr. Munaja, if you can
Yes,
hear me,
yes, I can hear
yes,
you. Can you get me?
okay. You are very loud and clear at this time.
I think to
So,
add to what Mr. Hunter has just said, one of
yes.
the things to do is to immediately cut off communication with all the blackmailers, and also not to engage with the threats again as you report this matter. It's not good to always continue being in contact with them after an incident.
Yeah,
Okay.
and George, I don't know whether we have discussed it, but
Okay. Go ahead. Mhm.
once you fall a victim, the threat begin to come, and they come in. It will be escalated. You understand? And trust me,
Yes.
if you yield to their demand, that's the end of it, because they will go, come back, go, come back, go, come back. You will never finish paying them. You will never finish paying them. And some of them, they will go. Sometimes year later, 2 years later, they will come back to you again that the money you have given to them is finished. You've got to pay them back again. And so you just have to be very careful. As soon as you fall a victim to them, please report to the law enforcement agencies. Yes.
George.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Gomez, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I think one thing that should be emphasized, even to any victim that may uh, find themselves in that situation, is that one, when you decide to respond to a ransom demand, and they tell you we're going to delete everything and get rid of this once you pay, there is no guarantee. So one very important thing, as my colleague has said, is cut communication. Two, you need to find somebody you can trust, law enforcement preferably, a legal attorney or somebody that is in that field, but that has expertise dealing with cyber crimes. We now have an emergence of a lot of credible private practitioners. Doyen is a great example, and many others that are not here. So it's very, very important that you find somebody as soon as it happens that you can confide in and get help. Because what happens is that when you are a victim, and this is where these criminals want to get you at, is you're confused, you're panicking, and therefore your faculties are disarrayed. And if you try and make a decision in that state, it's very possible that they will succeed in their approach. But when you get help, you will then get assisted to come to making much more sound decisions.
Okay, so I think we have less than 7 minutes to wrap up the show. Yes, we've spoken about the how and what we must do. The next thing is most often when we fall victim to online sextortion and blackmailing, what happens is that we are most often feeling shy, if that's a better word to use, to approach uh, family members, friends, or people who are in a position to assist for the fear of being ridiculed. What can we tell those ones, or the individuals, or those who fall as victims? What can we tell them to encourage them that if you fall a victim to online sextortion, feel free, go ahead and seek help rather than sitting and thinking you can resolve the problem at your own level. Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, George, I always tell my clients, those that have come to me, that that's not the end of life. Life must still goes on. Life still goes on, but it's not really easy. I remember there was a time there was a politician that was involved, and if you look at the whole thing, the man was contesting the seats, and you can imagine the situation. If his opponent should get hold of it, you can imagine what was going to the man. And the man was not ready to listen to anything I tell him, because at that very particular moment, what was upon his head, it was it was
I
he was going
understand.
through a lot. I sat him down, I took him in my car. The man was just well, and then the next thing he was talking about was suicide. Was suicide? I was, no, that's not the end of it. That's not the end of it. That's not the end of it. But eventually we're able to resolve it, and we got the people, and that case we were able to deal with it. There was another case also. There was a lady nurse who was also involved, and she came, and this lady was married. So you can imagine, if the husband should get hold of all these pieces, the families involved here and there. And so, like my other colleague said, if you're not very professional and tactful in handle them, because at one point in time, if you're not so much on top of your job, you realize that the pressure they will give you, the police officer or the investigator, because the pressure they will exert on you. If midnight calls, they are calling all the time. They are calling me and all the time. So you just have to be on top of your work, and be able to work on their psychology and encourage them that, look, it's not the end of life. Life will go on, and many times. And so usually, and also, it's good you let them speak to a professional psychologist while the investigations are still ongoing, so that they'll be able to be at ease. And I mean, a lot more families should not, much more is about stigma, society. If your photos are out there, you can't do anything. Again, the next thing they will do, society will refer you that, look, but I mean, you are the same person whose video is out there. We've seen this about you. And so nobody wants to have it. But once it has happened, please, life must still go on. Be encouraged that, look, that's not the end of life. Life must still be hopeful. And most importantly, the law enforcement agency should be able to work with you to resolve these issues peacefully. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Mr. Gomez, but before that, I think we have less than 2 minutes to wrap it up. There was an instance where we have a man of God, a pastor, who mistakenly sent his nude video on a WhatsApp, a church WhatsApp platform. And I think in a day or 2 days later, he hanged himself up because he knew he was going to face a lot of backlash
Exactly.
from the church society.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Gomez, from that angle, how do we still encourage people who fall as victims to these things to still man up and then march on?
George, these are very unique cases, and people react very differently. And when there's a demand on sextortion, you find that even the victims, not all of them may be financially capable. But one thing I've noted across the continent, George, is that the local enforcement units, the police, have been proactive in creating cybercrime units and victim support units. So to any and every victim with a capability or capacity to pay the ransom or not, the best place you can start from is your law enforcement agencies. First and foremost, even if you don't have the capacity to pay a ransom, they are there to save you, and they'll be able to guide. And from there, as you begin to get the first intervention with the various capabilities, you can then get to a much more private aspects of getting a psychologist involved, getting private investigators to come in and help you narrow down. But law enforcement agencies should be trusted enough. I think with the experience I've had with our local and a few from within the region, they're proving to be quite effective and equal to the task currently on cybercrimes.
Okay, before I let you go, Mr. Gomez, this may be your last words. You have worked with the state law enforcement agencies in the past to resolve majority of issues that comes up in the field of security. Now, what is your recommendation to other law enforcement agencies in Africa on the issue of collaborating with private entities in resolving national security threat issues like sextortion and blackmail?
George, my encouragement to most local enforcement authorities, it's very important to develop local, private, and international collaborations. You find that there's a whole lot of resource that has been put in the private sector. People have gone to lengths to do extensive studies and research, which most of our governments have a challenge in terms of capacity building on officers to handle cyber crimes. So, with a collaborative approach, it's very easy, as I can speak from experience, leveraging on national and state resources in terms of human and basically otherwise material. With my knowledge from the private sector, having worked in various institutions at both national and international level, it made things a whole lot easier. So collaboration would be my emphasis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomen. May I take your last words, Mr. Anthony from Juba, South Sudan?
Pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much for the show. My last word would be that each and everyone who is listening to us should be very vigilant. We should really take good care of ourselves when it comes to the online community. We should take good care of accounts. We should not click on links that come to our WhatsApp or comes to our messenger or comes to our emails anyhow, because this is a way these cyber criminals get to know our passwords, and we should really help one another in times of hardship when it comes to cyber bullying, cyber blackmail, and sextortion. Thanks so much, George, for having me today in the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony from South Sudan, Juba. Now I turn my attention to Mr. Ahatan, the law enforcement officer who have a lot of experience in this particular sector, have dealt with a lot of complainants on this issue. May you tell us your last words, probably word of caution, and then again, what specifically our listeners should do in order to stay secure in this online environment, briefly.
Well, the main, what you need to do is don't trust all the profile photos you see on social media. No, don't trust any of them. Don't trust them. And even those that you know, they could have been hacked. They could have been compromised. So don't trust anybody. And never share any photo of you, especially if it is nude. Don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our viewers. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule this Saturday to join us. Remember that the Security Awareness Forum show, it's always live on Saturday, 17 hours GMT, and we bring you security-related issues where we dive into those issues and give you the solutions to mitigate those vulnerabilities. Next week, join us again. Next week's topic would be unwitting courier or contraband trafficking where innocent victims are used. In the past, we have had the statistics show that a lot of Africans have been arrested in other countries carrying contraband. It could be cocaine, heroin, when they have no idea that whatever item they were carrying had a concealment in it. Next week at 17-hour GMT, we're going to dive into that issues and give you the safety tips on how to not fall a victim to unwitting courier. Till we meet again, we wish you all the best and do have a lovely evening.
Thank you.